For you to classify as being healthy, you must have these three components: your mental health, your physical health, and what? Your social well-being. These three things must be there. Now, as I said last time, I was talking about and trying to elaborate mental health. Now, all of them work hand in hand. That's the truth. If you have a problem with your physical health, it can actually affect your what? Your mental health. And that's the truth. If you have a problem with your mental health, it can also affect your what? Your physical health. And of course, if you have a problem with social interaction, of course, it can also affect all of these things. So it's important that we take all these components seriously. But today, we'll be dwelling on mental health issues. And then we'll be looking at a few things before we have, questions and answers. All right. So one of the things I just need to discuss in terms of mental health, just a minute, is that for mental health, I mentioned that there are several categories, okay, of mental health issues. And number one on the list that affects a lot of individuals is anxiety, okay? So anxiety is on top of the list. And when I say anxiety, anxiety just means that there is this constant feeling, right, that you're always worried about something. And the funny thing is that this worry can be tied to something, or it might not be tied to anything. Meaning that, for example, let's say someone has had an accident, right? Maybe like last month. There's a chance that, or maybe in January, there's a chance that periodically, once in a while, those thoughts might be what? Coming. Those intrusive thoughts. You start feeling worried, you start feeling concerned, your heart starts beating very fast. At that point in time, you know that you're anxious about something, right? And that kind of condition, we call it a post-traumatic stress disorder, meaning that a stress has happened probably in the past, and then it's still replaying, probably in your dreams, in reality, and then you're worried about it. So anxiety has been proven to be among the top leading cause of mental health issues. And sometimes we know even when we want to do some certain presentations, right, in school, or maybe they call us out for debate, sometimes you see that the way our heart is beating, Abi, very fast, beep, 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 and then we are sweating. Now, that kind of feeling is, anxious, right? But then it's not an anxiety disorder, because an anxiety disorder means that most part of your day, or most part of your week, or most part of your month, you are having that consistent feeling. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. So, if you're having it once in a while, that can happen. We are humans, so we respond to so many things. But then if you're having the anxiety feeling regularly, that's where the problem now becomes. And one of the ways I always tell people is, one of the ways to manage your anxiety is by having a deep breathing exercise, right? So for example, if I'm anxious at that point in time, what I need to do is to take what? 3 what? Deep breath. 3 what? Deep breath. So you breathe in, okay, and out, deep, not 3 deep breaths. So you breathe in, right, out. Then second time, and then the third time. Now, once you do that, what happens is that it helps to relax the nervous system. And then you feel much, much better, right? And then one of the things I didn't mention the last time is that for anxiety or for anxiety issues, you must practice what we call mindfulness, okay? So you must be mindful of where you are. And let me explain by being mindful. Now, sometimes most of our worries are what will happen in the future, all right? Or what is happening currently. Or how can I manage the situation? So we are anxious about almost everything. Even the Bible has told us we should be anxious for what? For nothing, right? So one of the ways is that, okay, fine, if I'm in an anxious state, okay, one of the things I try to tell people to do is that just look around your environment, right? And then look at 5 things you can pick out and focus on those 5 things. For example, I can focus on the chair, I can focus on the instrument, I can focus on the camera guy, I can focus on somebody else, or I can focus, on anything, maybe this vase. And then I'm looking at it, okay? Then I can decide to touch 4 things. So I can decide to touch my clothes, I can decide to touch my phone, I can decide to touch my hand, I can decide to touch anything. Or I can also decide to have a smell. So I want to smell something. Or I can decide to listen to 3 different sounds. Now, what happens is that once you have the presence of mind at that point in time when you're having an anxiety disorder, it helps you to relax beautifully. And those are the things that, most times the talking therapist or the psychologist will always tell you to do. Have mindfulness. And mindfulness means that look at 5 things around you. Just be present at that point in time. Don't overthink things. Look at 5 things around you. Try to touch like 4 things. Okay? Try to listen to like 3 different sounds. Okay? So you say 4, 5, 4, 3. Try to listen to like 3 different sounds and try to smell just a particular kind of smell. And then once you do that, you can see that the way your anxiety level will drop at that point in time will be very, very beautiful. Okay? And then, of course, management of anxiety requires a lot of things. You need to understand that you need to talk to a talking therapist sometimes if it's very overwhelming. Because one of the things we mentioned in mental health disorder that it affects your capacity to perform. Now, once you're having a mental health problem and then your capacity to perform is impeded, to perform your daily activities as usual, that's when the problem now begins to ensue. Okay? Because if you can't perform your daily activities, it means that at the end of the day, you cannot contribute effectively to the society. So if you cannot perform effectively, then there's a problem. Then secondly, we look at depression. Okay? So depression on its own just means persistent sadness. So an individual is just sad for a long time. So, and I try to make a distinction between sadness and depression. One can be sad. Being sad is just an event. Depression is a long-term thing. So you look at depression in different things. For example, first off, the person begins to lose interest in normal activities. So for example, I always enjoy playing football. Now I don't like playing football, right? And then maybe I like to eat. And suddenly, I don't want to eat again. Or I enjoy sleeping before, and then suddenly, I'm no longer sleeping. Then you know that something is happening. Before you can concentrate on an activity, now you don't even have that presence of mind to concentrate. You're looking at your book is looking at you. You're not understanding anything, which was not the case before. Your energy levels too have dropped significantly, right? Then it's a problem. Then you are withdrawing from people. Isolation now becomes one of the biggest issues you see with people having depression. They want to isolate themselves. And usually most times, one of the ways to see how you can combat that is by, engaging them. They have to do different things. You see, one of the things that makes people to be very sad is by the time you begin to do the same thing all over and all over again. For example, you did the same thing January, February, March, April, now to September. Nothing has changed. Your routine has remained the same. There have not been any exciting thing. Nothing. You see that the way the brain works, as I said the last time, the brain has certain things that makes you happy. And those hormones, we call them Happy hormones, right? So they are hormones that make you happy. They're like chemicals in the brain that is being produced that make you to be very happy. And one of the things that makes those things to still be produced in high amounts in the brain is when you begin to do some different activities that your brain has not been used to. For example, do something adventurous. Do something different. Take on a new skill, right? Take on a new task. Not the routine, wake up by morning, go to work, come back, sleep, wake up. You're doing that kind of routine. Yourself, you'll be tired. They will now see you as a boring person, and then you're no longer enthusiastic to wake up again to go to work. And then before you know, sadness now begins to come, and then a lot of things can happen. Of course, there are a lot of triggers, right, that can cause depression. For example, a loss of love, maybe you lose a loved one, or an activity happens. Definitely, you will not be in that very good mental space. So sadness is not a good thing, and persistent sadness, which is depression, becomes a problem. Now, the third one we looked at was bipolar disorder, which is some people could be happy for a period of time. So, for example, they're happy this week, Monday to Friday to Saturday to Sunday, like that. And then next week, they're just sad. The upper week, they're happy again. The next week, they're sad. So when you have that mixture of happiness or overexcitement or high energy levels, okay, or high mood, or they are talking too much, mixed with the fact that the next week, they are now feeling very weak, very sad, very unhappy, they are irritable, they are not even interested. We now call it bipolar, meaning that they have different moods at different points in time. So the happiness mood is called the mania, and then the sad mood is called the depression. So we call it a bipolar disorder. And now, one of the things that have contributed significantly, as I mentioned, is the use of drugs. Substance abuse has been found to be one of the leading cause of mental health disorders. So ask your neighbor, are you taking something? Ask him, well, are you taking something? When we say, are you taking something, it could be as little as alcohol, because when we're saying drugs, people will say, let's say there are drugs and then there's alcohol. Let's separate alcohol and let's leave drugs. So alcohol and every other thing is what we're talking about. You take all these things, and I said the last time that your body begins to adapt to it. So before you take 10 mils of alcohol, your body say, this is too small. Just increase them now. How are you going to give me this kind of thing? Just make them like 50 mils. Let's be going there like that. And then before you're taking 50 mils, you're taking 100 mils for you to get that same effect, okay, that the drug is giving you. And it's important for you to understand that by the time you do these things, you distort a lot of things in the brain. And once you distort them, of course, mental health issues will always arise. So drugs should be avoided. And if you know you're already addicted to taking drugs that you can't help yourself, you need to seek help. Because the long run of this thing, at the end of the day, the complication or what will result from taking this drug for a long time is this mental health issues. You will not see that you don't even know what you're saying again. You don't even know what you're doing. Your reality is distorted. You will not see that someone is talking to you. Someone is speaking to you. You don't even know who is speaking to you. And then you are hearing things you're not supposed to hear. You are seeing things. They can be standing with you now and they're telling you that, see Obasanjo coming from this place. And then I wonder, where do you see that? See him now, he's coming now, he's walking down to this place. And you wonder because they have a very distorted reality. And why? Substance abuse. Right. Another thing too that have contributed, a lot, to a lot of mental health issues are relationships. Right? So I always tell people, always try to see things that you can always have control over. And don't stress yourself over so many things. Don't stress yourself over so many things. If there are certain things that you cannot handle, just let it be. Because at the end of the day, what we're looking at is how we can protect our mental health. Right? So things you can control are things like your actions to certain things, your reaction to certain things, and then your attitude to certain things. If you cannot control those three things, there will always and always be recurrent problems regarding mental health issues. So it's important. And then if you look at mental health as a broad topic, you see that it stands on 4 pillars, okay? Number one of the first pillars is your physical health. Remember I said that if your physical health is affected, what happens to your mental health? It can become what? Affected. Number 2, your emotional well-being. How are your emotions? Can you emotionally regulate? If your emotions are affected, just know that mental health could be a problem. And of course, spiritual, okay? Spiritual well-being can also affect the state of mind in terms of mental, right? And then your what? Cognitive. Cognitive means where you reason, the things you do, and all of those things. Once those things are affected, there will always be a problem. Then I went on to talk about, so we can still, I don't know where the barcode is, so that we can start sending in our questions as we'll soon be getting to the question part for it. So just a minute, okay? So how do we help with our mental health, really? Now, one of the things we need to do as Christians is that God has given us 24 hours, right? So out of those 24 hours, divided by 3, that means we have like 8 what? Hours, right? At least, let's have 8 hours for work. Abi? Then, another 8 hours to sleep. I hope we will sleep at least 7 to 9 hours every day. We are looking for money, Abi. Even myself that is talking, I'm not sure I always do it every time, but sometimes. I try to sleep early and wake up, more time early. I've been awake since 2 a.m. I've not slept. But then I know that I will pay back. Abi? But the idea is that you try to maintain a good sleep hygiene. So out of the 24 hours, you should sleep 8 hours a day. Right? Try to sleep 8 hours a day. I know people are having difficulty in sleeping. Seek help so that we can help you to sleep better. Then the 8 hours should be for work, your work study. And then the remaining 8 hours, who can tell me what should do the remaining 8 hours? Who can tell me? You say? Pray. Okay, I will agree, pray. So the remaining 8 hours are supposed to be for self-care. For what? for what? Self-care. And self-care could be your interaction with family, right? Your interaction with what? Friends, right? Or your faith-based system, which is, of course, prayers can come. Prayer, every other thing you need to do, prayer, reading the Bible, and all of those things can come in that regard. Then you are listening to something different. You are listening to music. You are doing something just different from the normal routine of work. Because one of the things that people don't understand is that by the time you overstress yourself with work, what it happens is that it leads to what? Burnout first. And then once there is long-term burnout, when you are burnt out completely from work, the next thing that happens is that it begins to affect your mental health. And then some of us are too nice in our workplace. I don't know why. Because we want to do that, we are too good. All right? I know that the reward for good work is what? More work, abi? So at our workplace, they will come and give you work that is not part of your job description. And then because we want to show that we are champions, you're already overwhelmed already with the work. Your ability to say no is very hard. See, until you start mastering the ability to say no at your workplace, you'll always be overwhelmed with work. At my workplace, I can tell you that I always know when to say no. Sometimes my MD or my boss will come and say, Dr. Ebuka, I'll say, Chairman, sir, I don't know if this one is in our job description. No. I don't know if it's there. I think this particular work is for the med lab scientist. And of course, he will reason and say, okay, that's true. You can just tell the med lab scientist to do it. And then I'll call the med lab scientist and he does the work. Because if I begin to say yes to every demand at my workplace, I become what? Overwhelmed with work, one. And then I now become burnt out from work. And then that leads to chronic stress. And then when you're now chronically stressed, your mental health now begins to what? Fail. So develop the capacity, honestly, to say no to certain things. I'm not even talking about work, even to life generally. You can't be the savior. You're not the Messiah. So do what you can do within your capacity. So there are some things you know that you can do, but you don't necessarily have to do them. I mean, if my MD comes to tell me that, I can't set this line for this patient, I can do it, but then I don't have to do it. Because I know that by the time I begin to overburden myself with work, it's going to have a detrimental response or a poor response to my work at the end of the day. And of course, I'll get burnt out and there will be a problem. So this mental health must be taken what? Seriously. There are a lot of young people between ages 15 to ages 25 that are being affected with these mental health problems. And that's because they are not aware of how to protect their mental health, one, and then they've been exposed early enough to drug and substances. And of course, again, pressure from social media, pressure from their peers. Their peers are buying this, they also want to buy. So you have to relax. Relax and enjoy your moments and know that everybody's life is a what? Different journey. All right? I pray that God help us in the name of our Lord Jesus. All right, so we'll be taking questions so that we'll not waste time and we're responding adequately to it. Hallelujah. Hallelujah.
Thank you, Dr. Ebuka, for the wonderful, for opening our eyes to certain things. So the first question here I want you to take is, you said, I don't do drugs at all, but I tend to forget things anytime I read or study easily. What can I do or what should I take?
Okay, so he's having challenges with forgetting.
Forgetting, yes. When he reads, he's not able to remember, but he doesn't take drugs. Maybe he has been advised by his colleagues or his mate that he should take something that will make him to remember. So he said, what should he do? Because he doesn't want to take substance.
Okay, substance to help or... Okay, all right. So sometimes this forgetfulness might not necessarily be a mental health issue. So let's first start from there, right? Even myself, I forget things. So yeah, the brain has a way of sometimes selectively, removing certain information just to purify. But then when it now becomes very perpetual, very incessant, or it's so constant, that's where the problem is. Some people have what you call attention problems, right? Okay, so their attention span is a problem. Like, for example, some certain people have what you call ADHD, where they cannot have good attention to certain things. And they're always very hyper, and they always tend to forget things, right? Sometimes it could be a genetic issue, all right? One has to now check. But one of the things that have been proven to help, right, is lifestyle, and I'll explain what I mean. First off, studies have shown that if you engage regularly, and I'll repeat, in exercise, you are exercising regularly. I'm not saying the one you do once in 2 months. Yes, the one that you do 30 minutes or 5 times a week, what it does is that it increases blood supply to the brain first. Now, there is a part of the brain that is notable for long-term memory, and that part of the brain is in the cerebral cortex called the hippocampus. Now, when blood rushes to that place because of your exercise, you begin to store information longer, right? So exercise has to be one of the first things you need to do. Then secondly, fruits and nuts. Okay, so nuts are actually very important for memories, okay? So take fruits, take nuts, take them regularly as possible. And now, when we try all these modalities and probably they are not giving us the desired effect, then we now have medications, okay, in the healthcare system that can actually help. These are controlled medications and can only be prescribed by a doctor. But of course, before we start, we always start with lifestyle medication and then, of course, try to go to, giving you medication that can help with your forgetfulness.
Thank you very much. You said, can bipolar make one aggressive? And how many years or months can one recover from bipolar? That's bipolar disorder.
Okay, all right. Okay, so bipolar just means, as I said, you're sad and you're happy. Aggressive, yes, it can make it very aggressive, especially when you're in the manic phase. Remember, there are 2 phases. There is manic, or there is mania, and there's depression. So once you're in that manic phase, you can be very aggressive. You can be very irritable, very aggressive. If you see somebody, you want to just carry them and just do a summer slam, okay, for them. But then, your recovery, to recover from it is dependent on the individual. Usually, most times, the individual is placed on psychotherapy, one, and then placed on mood-stabilizing drugs. There are certain drugs that are given. If you are taking these drugs consistently, you should see a change in 6 months. And then usually, studies have shown that for bipolar disorder, it takes about 1.5 years to 2 years for you to have a very good recovery. So it's a process, right? And then it's something that can be won, eventually.
What is the place of money in these mental health issues, especially in Nigerian context?
The place of money. Should I answer that one? I mean, they say money answers all things, have you? Yeah. So if you have money, you'll be happy. If you look at Maslow hierarchy of needs, you see that it starts with basic things like food and all of those things before you now start going up to certain. Now, there is no way. Once you have, if I have money like this, I'll be the happiest too. I'll just be dancing for people without you who will not pay. I will just dance and perform for people and I'll just be happy. And of course, once I'm happy, what happens to my mood? My mood will also be what? Happy. What happens to my mental health? I'll be happy now. I'll be chilling.
So money will always be a problem. Money will always be a problem. And we cannot all have it all. Even Dangote needs more money. So you just need to prioritize what is important to you.
Don't go and compare yourself.
Okay. So what do you do when you have struggled with depression, anxiety, and suicidal thoughts for so long? Whenever it feels like you are out of the loop, you are back at the beginning. It's just numb now, and I don't want to say. Okay, just numb now.
It's a lot.
And draining, maybe draining. Maybe that's what he's saying. The person saying.
Yeah. So in depression, really, we have like different stages. And by the time it gets to the point where you start having suicidal ideations, you already get into the severe form or moderate to severe depression already. And at that point in time, you need more intense therapy, to be honest. And of course, the church will play a very vital role, 1. 2, the talking therapists or the psychologists and the mental health specialists will play a vital role. So I would suggest that one of the things people do is that when they get better a bit, okay, when they're having this thing, they get better for like 2 to 3 months, they just tend to just forget everything. The things that got them to where they got better, they just leave it. Oh, I'm fine, I'm good. Let me just forget about it and just continue. There should be a maintenance of those similar activities that brought you from point A, right, to point B, so that you sustain it, for a very long time. Because if you just leave them, they come back again. And that's one thing about mental health issues. You think you're out, you're just like someone that's taking drugs. He had like 3 months of remission where he's not taking medications, all those hard drugs. Later, you see that after 3 months, he comes back to it again. So what really happened? Because what brought him there to where he was stopped, or where he stopped taking that stuff, he left it. And after a while, those things will come back again, even much more, even higher than before. So it's important that you seek what help, spiritual help, physical help, and then ensure that what brought you from point A to point B, you should not just let it go like that.
Thank you, sir. When do you seek medical attention when you are having mental health issue? So when do you go for mental?
See, as I said, the end goal of mental health issue is when it incapacitates your activities, right? So you are not reasoning properly. You cannot perform. You cannot concentrate. Everything around you does not even make sense again. See, there's nothing wrong to be sad. As I said, there's nothing wrong to feel bad. There's nothing wrong to be anxious. But when it gets to the point where you can no longer do certain things, you're no longer coming to church, you're no longer doing a lot of things, your activities are affected, your concentration is affected, then you will need to seek help. And not just seeking help for the help of it, seek intentional help and be consistent with it. And you see that it can actually help, to bring you out of that situation.
I heard ulcer can cause panic attacks. I have ulcer, but I'm also having series of attacks, feeling down, feeling like dying, feeling like I shouldn't be born.
Oh, feeling, that's serious.
What should the person do? That's what
the person should see me.
See the doctor, see him. So you can always see him, maybe.
See this question, the person needs to see me,
yes.
After service
so
or anytime.
You do one-on-one, maybe today.
It's a lot, so I can't explain. It's a lot. Just try and see me, please. I'll be available to attend to that.
Okay.
Yeah.
He said, is it possible to be completely happy?
All right. Completely happy. You can be joyful, but completely happy may not be every time. It's an episodic. Happiness is episodes, right? Joy should be consistent, right? Now, let me tell you, when it comes to happiness, there are 3 things. First of all, there's an environmental factor to happiness, 1, right? And then there's even a genetic factor. There's some people, when you go to their family, they're just happy people. You don't even know, they don't even have so much, they're just happy. So there's a genetic factor to it. And then there is a mind factor to it. So what's your state of mind, really, at every point in time? I mean, today, in the morning, I was very happy. Something happened at work. I became sad for like an hour, right? And then later, I became happy. But what's your mood, or what's your affect for a period? So if I take a 24 hours period, and then out of that 24 hours period, 3 out of 4, that's 3/4 of that period, you are sad. That means you're a sad person. But if 3 out of the 4, that means out of the 24 hours, I divide it in 3/4, and then you are happy, then naturally you're a happy person. So you can be happy, but then of course it can be interspersed with, sadness here and there. But that does not mean that you're a sad person. But then joy is what you should seek, so that happiness can always be a constant thing for you.
Okay. Before I read the next question, you answered the question and the person replied, what if you don't know what took you from point A to point B? Please, if you are the person, please, you can either see us today, or if you don't want to be known, please come on Sunday.
Please come on Sunday.
And see a little. Nobody will know you are the one, because there is something really going on. So see, because you're asking, how do I know what took me from point A to point B? So that means you are here. So please see come. Us on Sunday or later today. He said, okay, the person asking, how which he or she boosts her mental health, even when feeling depressed about certain things you have done in the past that makes you always feel sad. So maybe there are certain actions he or she has taken in the past, or certain things that happened in the past, and the thing is causing the person to be sad. Say, how can he or she come out of it, or how will she?
So first off, you cannot heal really from the same environment, right? Or from the same people, or from the same situation that brought you pain. That's common knowledge. So you first have to emancipate yourself, or remove yourself from that situation. And how do you do that? First of all, connection, okay? There are certain C's of mental health clarity. First of all, connect, look for people, make new connections, talk to people, talk to friends, be out of that zone. I mean, if I'm in a place where, in a toxic environment that has drained me emotionally, one of the things that I need to do is to get out of that space, because it's what caused me the problem first. Abi, I get out. You see connection, 1. 2, your diet, very important. 2, 3, do new things. Do something different. Don't be a stereotype, right? Do something different. Then number 4, exercise. As always, this exercise is very important, and I can tell you that it will help a whole lot. So you exercise and then practice what we call mindfulness. So mindfulness, exercise, get out of that place that's caused you the problem, and also seek professional help. Once you seek professional help, I'm sure, this will be a thing of the past.
He said, what of the situation when you are living with a partner who triggers your mental health? What should you do, especially when you have sought medical help? So you know what to do now.
You will see the church.
Okay. Don't say, what do you say about someone that keeps feeling like she's dying, gets attacks, can't sleep properly, and keeps feeling like she's walking in another world?
Right. Okay, so this is a mix of so many things. It looks like a panic mix and looks like a psychosis mix, right? So there are 2 different things happening. Please and please, for this one, please see me after service. Thank you.
Okay. It says, what are the immediate solutions one can do to help a loved one with emotional drama from childhood?
So with emotional trauma?
Yes, emotional. She said, it should be trauma. Maybe it is a mistake. He said drama. But it should be trauma.
I think it's trauma. As I mentioned last time, so childhood trauma, it plays a very, very big role. So one of the ways you need to help them is, for those kind of people, you need to hold space for them, to be honest. It's not very easy. I've been with people that I've listened to their childhood experience. Trust me, it's not palatable, especially people that they grew up where the father was always beating the mother, right? Or where the father was never present in their life, and then they grew up and then they have low self-esteem, they have problems, they're always sad, they're always seeking reassurance. If you see someone, to be honest, how I knew that this person had a problem was that the person is always seeking reassurance every hour. I've never seen that before. Then I started asking questions. And then when I started asking questions, I now discovered that there was something that happened in childhood that was now reflecting, right, at this point in time. So what I did was very simple. Hold space, listen to the person's story, and then provide professional help. This professional help, you pay. But no problem. You can see me and then we can discuss this properly, because there is a long series, when to help people with childhood trauma.
Okay. Before we take the last question, somebody asked, what causes postpartum depression? So please, if you are the one here, if it's your wife or if you are the lady or the man, please see us on Wise Women Forum. We've discussed that before.
So for postpartum, by the time someone gives birth, so we have to make a distinction. Sometimes when you give birth, when a woman gives birth, in 2 weeks she can be sad. It's normal. It can happen. That time we call it postpartum blues. There is no problem with that. It's when you are not exceeding more than 4 weeks, and then you are still having that same mood. Then we'll now call it postpartum depression. And then when I start having very, very funny ideations where you think that someone is killing you or someone is following your dreams, we'll now call that one postpartum psychosis. So all of these things need to be attended to, properly, and then we'll see how we can help that.
Our time is up. So every other question, you can see us at the first aid unit, which is the cubicle outside. You can come and see us on Sunday. For most of these questions you are asking, it's not something that can be dealt with right now. It's something that you have to seek professional help. You have to go for counseling and other things. So you can actually see Dr. Ebuka or any of the doctors or any of the first aid team. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.